Hi everyone, this is Mary Long with My Art Dish, and today I'm very excited to introduce you to our friend Jen Stanley. Hi Jen.
Hi, Mare.
Hey, we also I see have Jazz with you, so
Yeah, yeah.
she may be in the story too. I am
Right
really
on
pleased
camera.
to. That's right. I'm really just pleased that you're here today, and I always enjoy painting with you and learning from you. And I'm excited too to have you here because what I have seen is this amazing transition that you've made from oils. I'm sorry, from pastels to oils, and
Yeah.
to me, you're always an inspiration. I see you kind of living plein air, but also your art in general. It just feels like it's just a something for us all to learn from. So I'm glad to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So today, I thought we'd just start. What brought you to painting?
Well, painting itself, in my late 20s, it just started coming up as something that I thought I'd want to do. And I had always worked with my hands. My first occupation, I was a chef, and then I transitioned into natural medicine, still using my hands. So it just um, and there was this repetitive thought that I would always tell myself, like, well, you weren't a doodler when you were little, so you shouldn't be able to paint now. And eventually, I let that thought run for about 10 years and then finally was like, you know what, that's enough of that. Let's
Yeah.
let's go try, let's go take a class. You don't have to tell anybody if you're horrible. Nobody needs to know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I decided to kind of jump in, and I'm so grateful that I have, because it's my form of meditation. It's how I kind of dump all my thoughts at the end of the day, and it just kind of drains excess emotions from me. So I'm so grateful to have found it later on.
Yeah. And so you started painting and painting with pastels at the beginning. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started in oil pastel
Ah.
actually, and the first time I went out plein air painting, I brought oil pastels. I was in Tucson, Arizona, and they just, by 7:30 in the morning, they were just melted like lip
Oh.
gloss. So very quickly realized oil pastel is not a good plein air medium for really hot days.
Mhm.
So then I switched over to soft pastel and enjoyed that for a couple of years. But I would paint with the planner group and would see all the oil painters, and I thought, oh, I want to do that texture. I want that wet medium, and so last year switched over to oil painting.
Yeah, and how has that transition been for you?
It's I love it. I'm glad I'm in oil painting, but each medium kind of has um, its own process. Oil pastel, you layer about 30 layers of paint. You start from dull darks and then you build the bright lights on top of it. I'm actually doing a commission piece right now of an oil pastel, which is this one right here. So right now it's still in the dull dark stage, but and then so for plein air it doesn't work well because it takes so many hours to layer
Hmm.
those dull darks and then put on the bright lights that you just can't get it done as quickly, or at least I couldn't. The soft pastel, I loved that because you just went straight to the right value. You didn't want to muddle up because it would get too brown or, um, but I, but I, but I really like the oil paint is really my favorite with just the texture and the wetness and the way you can build it up. So but each of them serves their purpose. I find that now when I'm captured by something that I want to paint, the medium comes to me first as to with your skill level right now, you would do this best in soft pastel, or you would do it best in oil or oil pastel. So I find that interesting that I know that before anything else, which medium I think, I can accomplish what I want to accomplish with.
How have you learned that?
I think it's my intuition, just knowing, seeing the values in the piece and the emotions that the piece evokes. I know what I can do with soft pastels, which I love because there's just this richness and darkness that I haven't learned to harness yet in oil paint, and I know how to do it in soft pastel. So if it's like an 80% dark painting, I'm gonna go. I notice I tend to go towards soft pastel because I know I can get a lot of rich, deep color in those darkness or those dark areas. So, but most of it's just, I think, intuition or having worked those mediums and know what I can do at this point, which one I think I'm best at right now.
Yeah, nice. Do you have people that have influenced you in your growth in these different mediums?
Yeah, Marla Baguetta is actually this example here with the pears. A couple years ago, she wrote an article for the Pastel magazine about doing the same landscape scene 100 times. And so I found this just out on the street and brought it home and said, okay, I can fit 36 squares on here. So I ended up doing 36 pairs. And what I realized from the exercise was that by the time I configure all the different color compositions and textures that I know how to do, you get to the point where your brain just kind of frizzes out and you're like, I can't do anymore. And then there's kind of like this like light that shows up at the end of the tunnel, and it's just expression that comes through, and it's no longer thinking about, all the complementary colors or the combinations that you would do, but it's just kind of this freedom. And I feel like I always call it, I feel like in my head I step slightly to the left, and that's what it feels like most of the time. I'm trying to control the painting, or I have this vision, and then if I can just step slightly to the left
and get out of the way,
it just becomes so much more expressive, and something takes over. It's me and something else that shows up. So out of the 36, it was no surprise to me that the 36th pair was the most expressive. As I finished that one, I was like, oh, this is why. This is why you should do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So, but she was really impactful. Richard McKinley was also one of my favorite. I took a workshop with him in Jackson, Mississippi, and he always said that with the spectrum of your light values from 0 to 10, if you're painting plein air, you're never going past a 7. And that really made a lot of, it's always stayed in my head as don't go past a 7 in value, because the way that light reflects off the ground or off buildings, it comes up and it lights up shadows. And so you're never going to have that 8 to 10. And when he said that, I realized that's what I like so much in his paintings. That's what always drew me to his work. So I've definitely found, and then right now I'm in Steve Puttrick's plein air workshop Wednesday afternoons at Washington Square Park about composition and design and line, and that has taught me a lot about the discipline. I always thought that painting just meant you got to get out there and just be expressive, but I noticed I at least spend a lot of hours making mud that way and not getting good composition. So now slowing myself down and doing the thumbnails and doing the gradient values and, thinking ahead of, my composition has really made me a much faster painter. To slow down actually sped up my painting. So I'm finding that really, really inspirational.
I found that myself, and that's probably with Steve and Patrick and Mary Gingrich and a couple other teachers that I've had, that really taking the time even then to make the paint colors and things that I need, and beginning to just take the time to plan it all out after those thumbnails, and toning the board and doing all those things that become ritualistic, but they really help me kind of think through and almost provide a cell memory for me as I go back to start the painting. So I'm right with you there. I have really learned that it's important to take the time up front.
Yeah. You actually taught me about making my pools of colors and getting the right values first to keep it clean. Then you're just putting that on. And that I've used that ever since you told me that. And I'm like, Mary's right, man. This works. So it's not, it doesn't need it. Yeah. It's a different way of it's slowing down to create faster, have things come together.
They do come faster. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think of you as being someone who's very creative. You know, and certainly you found some creativity in doing the pairs to find that your 36 was the most expressive. But what else do you do to kind of loosen up to get out of your way?
That's a good question. I like to paint. I like to paint alone, meaning
Yeah,
I don't like people around me. So my partner Ray always gives me a hard time. Like you look so angry when you're painting, and it's like I just don't want to be disturbed, you know. So I tend to put myself in areas where people can't reach me
yeah,
because I feel like when you're, I feel like I go to a very intuitive kind of open, it's almost like you're opening up an energy field to yourself to kind of tap into the environment, into nature. The first time I plein aired when I was in Tucson, I was out at the Saguaro National Forest, and I got out there at like 6 o'clock in the morning because I knew it was going to be another hot day. And I just stood there, and it's like if you just silence your mind and silence your thoughts, it's like the everything around me started talking, you
mm,
know, and it was like the environment wanted to tell me its story.
mm,
And I don't want that to be disrupted ever by someone coming up and, oh, look at you, you're painting, or you know, like taking pictures. And so I'm kind of you know, I do better, and I'm more express to allow yourself into that place of where you open up, um, like on another level. It's very jarring to have other people around, in
yeah.
my opinion, that come in and it kind of like hurts my intuition. Like like it feels like an assault in a way. So I spend a lot of time just by myself and in nature, and that, you know, that's why I love plein air painting. So
And what part of your body of work is plein air painting versus studio painting?
I would say probably in the summertime, in the warm weather, it's 90% plein
Mm,
air. I try to be out as much as possible, because the winter I'm usually more contained inside. So, but as soon as it's nice out, I would much rather. I find I'm learning faster. I'm becoming a better painter when I do plein air. Just my way of seeing things improve. So I want to take advantage of that in Chicago.
mm.
You know, especially just being out as much as I can.
You know, I think this is kind of a mix of the things that we've already talked about, but I know that you won an award from Northbrook,
Yeah.
but and your painting was actually a limited palette, a very limited palette, as I remember. And are you doing competitions, and do you think about that in terms of your palette and some of the things you've learned that way?
So at the Northbrook competition, um, the one of the first days we were able to drop off paintings, you know, all throughout the week that we were there. And so the first day I happened to go in and I saw all these paintings that were already turned in, and they were beautiful realist paintings. And I looked at them and I thought, well, I can't compete with this. Like I can't do realism better than these people. So I drove home that night and I thought, well, what can I do? And I thought, well, I'm a colorist. Like I can do color. That's my strong suit. So I'm going to go with complementary color and just do something that I thought would pop out against the realism that I was seeing there. So, and that's what I ended up doing that whole week. The whole week of painting, I just decided you're going with two colors, and that wasn't something that I did prior, but it was the idea that came to me, just thinking, how can you can't do what they're doing better, so what's the best thing that you can put forward, and that's what showed up that week for me. So yeah.
And it did very successfully. Then that was terrific.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
that was a great
and,
competition.
and do you have any you know, sort of favorite tools or other kinds of things that you use for your painting?
Yeah, so now, and I used these with oil pastels originally. They were called clay scrapers with oil pastels, and they're much smaller. But these are larger, and these are color scrapers or color shapers, sorry. And I love using these a lot, especially when I put my, can you see these in the?
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Once I'll do my underpainting, I'll kind of come back with these in and put my lights back in, or just kind of block out my lights so that I know where, so I have some of the stain from the underpainting, but I kind of know where I want the lights to go back in. So,
Yeah.
but, and, or just using these as my lights. So considering if I want to use the scrapers during the painting, what do I want to tone my board as, you know, so that that's my lightest bright, or, you know, whatever I'm going to be scraping back to. So, but I really enjoy these. These are probably my favorite tool.
And where do you get those?
These I got on Amazon, or Dick Blick carries them too. They're color shapers, and they have about like 8 or 10 different, you know, angles and cuts to them. So it's just kind of, it's Royal Sovereign Limited, but Dick Blick carries them. I think I actually bought these on Cheap Joe's because they were a little less expensive, but online.
Yeah, cool. And you know, what advice do you have for painters, you know, for other artists?
I think lead with your heart. Whatever captures that, whatever makes your heart flutter when you see it, to me, that's what you should be painting, because you're gonna get the emotion into the painting. So lead with that, and then learn as much as you can. Always paint with people that are better than you, which I think has been my greatest asset with the Plein Air Painters of Chicago, the group that we're part of. I just, you know, I'm surrounded by fantastic painters that there's no doubt in my head I can't not get better by painting with these people. So surrounding yourself with those that are better painters than you. And then just, you know, learn as much as you can, but then also allow yourself to, you know, step slightly to the left and allow that intuition and that inspiration to kind of take control and go with it.
You know, and the other thing that you haven't said specifically, but I think the fact that you were persistent in doing those pairs, for example, you know, you did 36 of them, and then paint 90% of the time, you know, plein air right now during this part of the year, that just critical mass of time and experience just is really seeming to work for you.
Yeah.
Just
keep at it.
Yeah, I'm real aware of watching you. It's very exciting. Let me have you show us your studio. Give us
yeah. So you may see another cat around here as I turn this around.
Who is this one?
Well, this is Jazz. Jazz likes to, she's my biggest critique. She doesn't like anything I do. This is my, the commission piece that I'm doing. And then this is kind of our drying wall here. So when we come home, we'll tend to hang them here, let them dry, do any changes that we, you know, as we look at them for a couple weeks, we might shift them around some more, and then we'll usually frame them, and I'll show you, and then we hang them up here for a couple weeks. So sometimes there's holes in our wall based on what's in what show, or what's hanging where, but that's kind of what we
nice
what our space looks like. So just kind of art everywhere.
That's very exciting. And you have lights, and so are you doing still lifes as well?
No, just I'm just using the lights for the commission piece at night. We don't have very good lighting in this room, so right now I'm just using them to help me paint at night.
Yeah, that's great.
And still life's in the winter time when we can't get outside. So
yeah. So what's up for you on upcoming events or competitions?
Yeah, so I have a couple of plein air competitions. I'm going to go up to Door County and do their quick paint this July. And then I'll be in Mineral Point, Wisconsin, the first week of August for their plein air competition. And then I'm waitlisted for Bluff Strokes in Dubuque, Iowa. So I'm fourth on their wait list, so hopefully I'll get in there. And that'll be in October, and then probably Northbrook again. And then for exhibits, I'm going to be part of the plein air group is doing the coffee studio in Andersonville, which is at the end of July, and then that will hang to September 15th.
Nice.
I'll do the Elmhurst show as well at the end of July, and then I'm at If These Walls Can Talk in Aurora this October.
Wow. All right. So quite a full schedule.
Yeah, late summer and fall will be my busy
Yeah.
this year for that stuff. So.
Yeah, that's great. I know that with all the painting, you hope to get into all those exhibits and things, so we can keep moving things along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Jen, thank you so much for taking time to talk right here with My Art Dish. And any other thoughts you want to share with anybody that's watching?
My website is jstanleyfineart.com. I think that's about it.
Excellent. All right. So thank you so much. And thank you, people, for watching. And we'll see you again. All right, Jen, see you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.